The sun was still low on the horizon when Mr. James, a septuagenarian with skin wrinkled by time and eyes as deep as the ocean, opened the doors of his old farmhouse. The scent of aged wood mingled with the freshness of the countryside. The house, which once echoed with the laughter of his beloved wife and the stories of his late father, now held only the echoes of distant memories. Despite the loneliness of a widowed heart and the absence of childish laughter, James never allowed himself to be consumed by melancholy. Instead, he found comfort in the small routines of his farm. Carefully, he harvested vegetables, greens, and collected fresh eggs from his chickens, preparing them for sale in town. "Ah, Mildred," he sighed, referring to his late wife, as he arranged the produce in his market cart. "How you love these fresh tomatoes." The journey to town was long, about 5 miles, and James made the trip with his faithful cart, carrying the promise of fresh products. His steps were slow but determined, marking the rhythm of someone who knew every stone on the path. And even with the arduous journey, he always wore a smile on his face and a story ready to tell. Mr. James greeted Sarah, a young clerk at the local grocery store. "How are the pumpkins this year?" James smiled, his eyes lighting up. "They are better than ever, my dear. I harvested one this morning that seemed almost as big as your eagerness to learn." Laughter filled the air, and in no time, a small crowd gathered around James's cart. Everyone wanted a word with the friendly old man, hear one of his stories, and of course, secure the best farm products. That's how, even with the quietness of his farmhouse, James's heart pulsed with the life and energy of the town, making him a beloved and indispensable figure to all. Jeff Johnson's luxurious office, located in the tallest building in Greenville, sharply contrasted with James's simple farm. Walls adorned with diplomas and awards, and a panoramic view of the city were a constant reminder of the power and wealth Jeff had accumulated over the years. However, it was never enough for him on a cloudy morning. As he looked out the window, his eyes fixated on the direction of James' farm, an area not yet touched by his expanding real estate ventures. "Matilda," he called out, with an authoritative voice, not taking his eyes off the window. His young, incompetent assistant approached with a notepad in hand. "Yes, Mr. Johnson. I want that farm," he said, vaguely pointing in the direction of James's property. "But I'm not willing to pay market value for it." Matilda frowned, feeling a bit uncomfortable. "But, Mr. Johnson, that's Mr. James's farm." Jeff interrupted her. "I don't care whose it is. I want you to go there, find some irregularity, some reason that allows us to acquire that land for a lower price." Reluctantly, Matilda nodded and headed to the farm. Upon arrival, she was greeted by the bucolic view of the place and the fresh scent of nature. James, with his straw hat, warmly greeted her. "Hello, young lady. How can I help you today?" James asked with a genuine smile. Matilda hesitated for a moment, taking in the peaceful atmosphere of the place. "Mr. James, I'm here representing Mr. Johnson. He's interested in your property." James scratched his beard thoughtfully. "I'm willing to sell, but for a fair price. This place holds many memories for me." As they talked, Matilda could see the love and care that James had for his land. She felt a pang in her heart, realizing she was there to help Jeff take advantage of such a kind-hearted man. "I'll take your offer to Mr. Johnson," she finally said, trying to hide the emotion in her voice. "But know that, regardless of the outcome, this place will always have a measurable value." Returning to Jeff's imposing building, Matilda hurriedly walked through the marble corridors, James's words still echoing in her mind. She entered Jeff's office, finding him alongside Paul, his legal advisor, a man with serious features and scrutinizing eyes. "So, what did he say?" Jeff asked impatiently, not lifting his gaze from a stack of papers on his desk. Matilda swallowed hard, hesitating for a moment before responding. "Mr. James is willing to sell, but for a fair price. Mr. Johnson, he loves that place." Jeff frowned disapprovingly, while Paul, with a sharp look, commented, "We are not in the business of paying fair prices, Matilda." Jeff added, I sent you to find a way to get that land without exorbitant costs, not to sympathize with the seller. Matilda took a deep breath, trying to maintain her composure. Understood, Mr. Johnson. I'll find a way. Paul leaned in towards her, locking eyes. Perhaps you should check if there's any tax lien or debt we can use to our advantage. Many small property owners neglect their taxes. Matilda nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. I'll look into it, Paul. Give me some time. Days later, after exhaustive research, Matilda discovered an old tax debt that James, for some reason, was unaware of. The amount, while not substantial, was enough to put pressure on the elderly owner. With reluctance, she brought the information to Jeff and Paul, hoping it would keep her safe from reprimand, or worse, from being fired. Jeff rubbed his hands with satisfaction upon hearing Matilda's discovery. With a shrewd look, he turned to his advisor, Richard. Go to the town hall and buy up that tax debt, then prepare a formal notice of the debt, including an eviction order. I want this message to be clear and incisive. Richard, a slim lawyer with a perfectly adjusted tie, nodded in acknowledgement. Consider it done, Mr. Johnson. Mr. James will know exactly what he's getting into. The next morning, James's friendly face turned pale as he opened the door to find Richard, holding a folder and wearing a cold and professional expression. Mr. James, Richard began, I come on behalf of Jeff Johnson. Unfortunately, we've discovered a tax lien in your name, and if the amount isn't paid within 7 days, I'm afraid you'll have to leave this property. James swallowed hard, panic evident in his eyes. But I never knew about this debt. Please, there must be some mistake. Richard shook his head. I suggest you get your affairs in order, sir. With the news weighing heavy on his heart, James, in an act of desperation, began to gather every product he could. He increased his trips to town, pushing his cart under the scorching sun, trying to sell every tomato, every egg, every bunch of lettuce. With each sale, his heart oscillated between hope and harsh reality. Speaking to one of his regular customers, he confessed, I'm trying to gather everything I can, Martha. But the amount, it's just too high. I don't know if I'll make it. Martha, a middle-aged woman with a floral scarf tied around her head, replied sympathetically, James, we love your products. We'll do what we can to help. But even with the support of the community, James knew he was facing an almost impossible battle against time and debt. The rain fell heavily, forming puddles along the dirt path leading to James's property. The atmosphere was tense, and the grey clouds seemed to mirror the elderly man's mood. Raindrops pelted the leaves of the vegetables, and the damp earth emitted a fresh scent, contrasting with the tension in the air. James, with a hood over his head, was kneeling in the garden, trying to quickly gather his produce when he heard raised voices coming from the direction of the house. He looked up and saw Matilda, Jeff's assistant, and the businessman man himself in a heated argument. It's not fair what you're doing to him, Matilda exclaimed, her eyes shining with indignation, her hair clinging to her face due to the rain. Jeff, with a disdainful look, retorted, business is business, Matilda. You should understand that. James began to approach slowly, trying to understand what was happening. Matilda, her voice trembling but determined, friend, said, if it's money you want, I can pay. I'll receive a severance package if I decide to leave your company. I'll use that money to pay off James's debt. Jeff laughed sarcastically. Do you really think you can challenge me with that move? You're just a pawn on this board, Matilda. She stared at him firmly. Perhaps, but I still have integrity. I don't stand by while you destroy an innocent man's life. Jeff, his eyes flashing with anger, pointed to the gate. You're fired. Get out of my sight and don't you dare come back. Matilda, wiping away a tear mixed with rain, cast one last glance at James before leaving, her determination intact. James, stunned, simply watched, unsure of how to thank the young woman for her unexpected sacrifice. Every morning, James would rise with the crowing of the roosters, even before the sun cast its first golden rays on the horizon. He carefully selected the freshest products from his farm, placing them in wicker baskets, hope shining in his tired eyes. Amidst the morning mist, he pushed his cart along the dirt roads towards the town. The sound of squeaky wheels was the only melody, accompanied by his silent murmur, "I need to sell everything today. I have to try." At his market stall in town, local residents would approach, drawn by the fresh vegetables and vibrant colors of the greens. "Good morning, Mr. James. How are you?" Sarah, a young mother with a friendly smile, would ask, taking the usual, "Yes, dear," James would reply, "and maybe a bit more today. I'm trying to gather a bit more money." Customers could see the subtle desperation in his eyes, but also the indomitable determination. They often bought a bit more than they needed, wanting to somehow help the elderly man. However, at the end of each day, no matter how many times he counted and recounted the coins and bills in his wrinkled hands, the amount seemed as insufficient as the day before. The shadow of debt was a mountain he couldn't climb. Every night, upon returning to his humble home, James would kneel beside his bed, his trembling hands intertwined. "Lord," he would murmur with unwavering faith, "I know times are tough, but I ask for a miracle. I ask for a chance to keep my land, my legacy. Help me find a way." And with that supplication, he would lay down, hoping that tomorrow would bring the answers his heart yearned for. The days blurred together for James. He would wake up before dawn, tend to his small farm, and then head to town with his cart filled with fresh produce. The townspeople, aware of his situation, always tried to support him in whatever way they could, purchasing a little more than usual. Still, the shadow of debt grew darker over James, like a storm cloud ready to burst. The usual greetings from neighbors were replaced by looks of sympathy and sorrow, but James always responded with a smile and a wave, his dignity intact, his hope wavering but never extinguished. However, one cold and foggy morning was different. When James stepped out of his farmhouse, he spotted a black pickup truck parked outside. Beside it, a man in a well-tailored suit was reading a document, his eyes hidden behind sunglasses. "Mr. James," the man inquired, his voice devoid of emotion. James swallowed hard, feeling a lump in his throat. "Yes, that's me. What do you want?" The man raised the document. "I have here an eviction order. I'm sorry, Mr. James, but the property will be reclaimed due to outstanding debts." James's heart raced. He looked at his home, memories of a lifetime echoing in his mind. "But I've lived here my whole life. This land belonged to my father and his father before him. Are you sure there's nothing I can do?" The man, glancing around and taking in the simplicity of the farmhouse and the farm, sighed softly. "I'm just doing my job, sir. Unless you can pay the debt within 24 hours, you'll have to leave." James nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. "I understand. I'll prepare myself." With that promise, James turned away, his shoulders slumped and his heart heavy, determined to face his destiny with the same dignity and grace he had always shown. In his most desperate moment, James was sitting on the old couch in his living room, his hands covering his face as silent sobs shook his aging body. The uncertainty of the future and the weight of the past made him feel like he was being consumed by an endless darkness. With tear-eyes, James attempted to get up, but his foot slid on a loose floorboard. He fell to his knees with a groan. Instead of immediately getting up, something caught his attention. A sliver of wood revealed what seemed to be a dark space beneath the floor. Intrigued and in need of distraction, James began to remove the loose floorboard. After some effort, he uncovered a hidden compartment. Inside, dusty and forgotten by time, was an antique chest with engraved ornaments and rusty clasps. His hands trembled as he opened the clasp. What he found inside left him breathless, shiny gold coins reflecting the dim rooms like jewelry with sparkling gemstones, and priceless ancient artifacts. It was a hidden treasure, possibly belonging to his ancestors, forgotten through the generations. James picked up one of the coins, feeling its weight in the coolness of the metal. "My God," he whispered, this might be the answer to all my prayers." He sat there for a moment, the gleam of gold lighting up his face as the reality of what he had discovered began to sink in. His fate had taken an unexpected turn, and a new hope was blossoming in his heart. As the sun began to set, casting a golden light over the farm, Jeff Johnson's luxury car entered James's property. The car window rolled down slowly, revealing Jeff's smug smile, his teeth shining almost as brightly as the rings on his fingers. He stepped out of the car, adjusting his expensive suit, clearly savoring the moment he was about to have. "Today's the day, old James," he muttered to himself, anticipating victory in taking the elderly man's land. As he approached the house, however, an unexpected scene awaited him. Sitting on the porch, James was smiling broadly, an expression of pure joy and relief on his face. Beside him, the old chest was open, with the coins and jewels sparkling in the sunset's light. Baffled, Jeff inquired, "What's this, James?" "Some last-minute garage sale before I kick you out," James looked at him, his smile never wavering. Jeff, you may be a shrewd businessman, but life always has a way of surprising us all." He picked up a coin and tossed it to Jeff, who caught it in the air, his eyes widening as he recognized the authentic gold. "This, my friend, is the answer to my prayers," James said with a twinkle in his eyes. "And thanks to this little miracle, I'll not only pay off my debt but also ensure that people like you never try to take advantage of someone in a vulnerable situation again." Jeff swallowed hard, the reality of what he was seeing sinking in. His smile had vanished, replaced by an expression of utter disbelief. Not long after the discovery of the treasure, James sought an appraiser to determine the actual value of the fortune he held in his hands. The gold coins and gemstone jewelry were authentic and valuable, which many could not only settle his debt but also secure a peaceful future. Sitting in the appraiser's office, James murmured, "Somewhat odd. I never imagined something like this could happen to me in my entire life." By settling the debt, James acquired a beautiful home in town, one with a spacious garden to continue growing his beloved vegetables and fruits. And right next door, he opened a charming store to sell his fresh products. Matilda, after being fired by Jeff, found herself at a crossroads in her career and what she truly desired for the future. Upon learning of James's new venture, she approached him, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. "James, I have an idea. Have you ever thought about expanding? We could do deliveries, create a brand. It would be wonderful." With Matilda's experience and James's charisma and quality products, the store quickly gained fame. People came from all over town to buy the fresh and delicious products, and the two of them became a dynamic duo. On a sunny day, with the store full of customers, James turned to Matilda and said, "You know, Matilda, I've always believed that doing good would bring good things in return. And you, with your kindness and integrity, have proven that." Matilda smiled, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. Life has a funny way of showing us the right path, doesn't it? And together, with effort and dedication, they prove that in the end, kindness and justice always find their way back. Thank you.